It's impossible to talk about sensor placement and trigger depths for your policies separately. That's because every policy is all about what happens at the sensor. Let's look at that in more detail. Starting with the most important question for any policy: where do you place the sensor? The best thing about the sensor is that you choose where to place it. We have a simple way to remember where you can place your sensor. The sensor must be installed on the property identified in your statement of fact. It's a document that comes with every quote. It must be at or above ground level. It cannot be installed down a drain, stairway, or depression that leaves the bottom and below ground level. The sensor cannot be placed on a wall that abuts or touches water. For example, a building next to a river. The sensor costs $200 per year. This covers licensing and any replacements required. Initial installation is provided at no extra cost. The installation engineer cannot advise you. You must choose where the sensor is installed to best suit your needs. Other than that, it's up to you. Most clients choose to place the sensor at the point of the lowest elevation. That way it will detect the first sign of flooding, and clients can choose higher trigger depths. Other clients place it next to doors or garages because they can easily see what trigger depths to choose. Every business is different, and your sensor placement is your decision. If you want assistance on the things to think about, get in touch and we'll support you throughout the process. Now let's look at the impact that sensor placement has on trigger depth selection. The most important thing to remember is the impact that sensor placement has on your depth. Placing the sensor lower down typically means you can choose a higher depth for your policy. Let's look at a simple example. This business is on a hill. Having had a walk around the property, we have quickly established that the first point of loss will be the electrical outlets at roughly 16 inches from the internal floor height. On the west wall, the internal and external ground heights are roughly the same. The client could place the sensor there and choose a trigger depth of 16 inches. When flooding happens up to that depth, they receive their payout. Let's look a little closer though. The client could put the sensor on the east wall. It's still above the ground level and fits our place rules. Because the ground height is lower, the client can now choose a trigger depth of 48 inches. When flooding happens, the payout will still protect the electrical outlets. The higher trigger depth for the policy has meant that this client's premium is far lower than had they placed the sensor on the west wall. Considering your sensor placement and trigger depth together can lead to significant savings. Be wary. What happens at the sensor is the basis for any claim. Here are some tips to make the process easier. Walk around the property with measuring devices. Talk to your broker or third-party surveyors. Contact Floodflash experts who can provide assistance. We're here to help.
Audio Jungle.